Todd VanDenburg with VanDenburg Capital Management and the Uncommon Sense Update. Greetings and thanks for watching. So last week we had a bit of a mixed week in the markets, with the Dow and the S&P finishing up slightly and the NASDAQ finishing down a little. Not a big deal. Nothing really newsworthy there. It's just a normal week in the market. Maybe next week we'll have two down and one up. You know, it's just normal. We also heard last week that there were 228,000 new jobs added to the economy, and that's a good thing. The expectation was just over 190,000 jobs, so they beat expectations, or the economy beat expectations. These numbers get updated, every few weeks, so, we may hear in a month that it wasn't 228, it was 210 or 235, but we'll see. It's good news. 220,000 is good news. We also heard that the European Union and the United Kingdom had reached a preliminary understanding of setting some guidelines for the United Kingdom leaving the European Union. That's a good thing. There was a lot of concern over that, and that they might not be able to work out a deal, and that would limit trade between the UK and the EU. So there will be more things to be signed in the coming months and even years, and we'll be watching that pretty closely. But a positive set of news for Europe. We also avoided a government shutdown last week, as the House came up with a spending bill that extends the government spending limits for another week. So we'll be talking about that next week, because they're going to have to sign something else and actually pass a budget. But good thing government didn't shut down. So everything that we expect out of the government this week, we should continue to get. What I did want to talk a little bit about is Bitcoin. Bitcoin. So last week, Bitcoin had sort of a meteoric rise, and I'm not going to put numbers out there, but let's just say it was pretty spectacular. As of the recording of this video, Bitcoins were going for a little over $16,000 each, which is amazing. But I don't know what to say about Bitcoin, but let me give you a little bit of information. So Bitcoin is what's known as a cryptocurrency. It's a currency, I think, is a bit of a stretch, and I'll explain that in a second. Crypto meaning that it uses cryptographic methods to encrypt the data about the currency and about the Bitcoin to try to keep it safe. Bitcoin does not exist in a physical form like a piece of paper dollar or a piece of paper euro. It's completely digital. As a result, it's not really backed by anything. The US dollar has the backing of the United States of America, and while it is what's called a fiat currency, it's not backed by gold anymore. It is still backed by the United States of America, which is an economy that can, has citizens that can, have their taxes increased so that the government can, create more money for the government and therefore cover the U.S. dollar. The Bitcoin doesn't have that. The way it started is, if you imagine somebody wanted to create a digital currency, and they said, okay, we're gonna create this thing, and we're gonna make available at most 21 million of them. And by the way, as of, again, the recording of this video, 16.7 million of the 21 million that were at least planned for have been issued. But they said, let's create a currency, something that can be exchanged, used to buy goods and services. And in order for that kind of thing to work, you need to have something that is in short supply and in demand, which doesn't sound like currency, right? Because people don't think of dollars as being in a supply and demand type of an environment, which is why the IRS does not treat Bitcoin as a currency. It treats Bitcoin as an investment, like a stock. So when you buy a Bitcoin, and you go to use it, if you use it and the Bitcoin is worth more than you paid for it, the government's going to expect you to report that gain as a capital gain. So keep that in mind. The thing that concerns me most about Bitcoin right now is just, one, that it's not backed by anything, and two, its intense volatility. Just over the course of a couple of days last week, it fluctuated so wildly that if you had taken your US dollars and purchased Bitcoin on one day with the plan of using that Bitcoin to buy, I don't know, an Audi A4, a couple of days later, if you hadn't purchased that car, you'd only be able to afford a Ford Taurus because the value of that Bitcoin dropped so rapidly. Now, it's gone back up again, and so, you know, if you wait a couple of more days, maybe you can get a Mercedes. But that just doesn't sound like currency to most people. It sounds like an investment, and that's how people should treat it. I should say here that I'm talking about Bitcoin not because I'm making a recommendation, not because I'm trying to sell any Bitcoins or that I think that anybody should buy any Bitcoins. This is just informational only. And so as you think about Bitcoins and you hear about Bitcoins, just remember that it's not really a currency, at least not treated by the IRS as a currency. It's not regulated like a currency. There really isn't a lot of information that you can get like you could any other security. So if you went to buy a stock, you could get a prospectus, but you really can't get all the same things out of Bitcoin right now. They're working on it, and they may create a more structure around it in the future. But right now, just remember, it's highly volatile. I mean, it can swing 10% in a day. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to buy some, you want to buy it as an investment, and then you want to watch it pretty closely. And if you make a little money, you know, it might not hurt taking a little off the table. So if anybody wants to learn more about Bitcoin, I'll actually be doing a presentation at the Rotary in Santa Rosa in January. You can only get an invitation through a Rotary member, but I may create a handout guide, and if anybody would like a copy of that guide, just let me know and I can get it out to you. So that was your moment. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a like, give it a share. We certainly appreciate it, and we'll see you in a couple of days with another Uncommon Sense update. Thank you.